So we're moving into a new month, a new topic this month. From Fear to Love is our conversation this month. And we are using a classic book. Love is Letting Go of Fear. How many of you are familiar with this book? All right, fabulous. Those of you who are not, you must run and get it. Those of you who are familiar with it, you are going to want to read it again because we're always in a different place. We're in a new place each time. This has been around for 30 years. This is an updated version of this Love is Letting Go of Fear, and it is truly extraordinary. And of course, it is Love Month in February, but it is beyond, we're talking this month beyond just intimate relationships or personal relationships, but really looking at this whole move from fear to love. And so what's the problem with fear? Well, the problem with fear is that it distorts reality. When we are in fear, we have a distorted idea of reality. And this distortion comes because there is a part of us, there's a part of our brain that is designed to seek threats and to protect us and keep us secure. Right? We are biologically designed for this. It's a millennial-old thing that has been developed. It's originally developed in our brains, and its job is to keep us safe. And if you're living in the jungle, or you're living on the savannah, or you're living in a cave, right, there are very real threats to survival. It's called animals, it's called, wild animals, and tribes you don't know, and the weather, and all kinds of things. And so to protect us, this portion of our brain was the very first thing that developed. And it's constantly scanning for security, things that are threatening our security and threatening our safety. The problem is, do you live in the savannah? Not today. Do you live in the jungle? Are you regularly being chased by a lion or a bear? Probably not, right? And so the problem is that our biology has not kept up with our evolution as humans. That's not completely true. What's really true is that our brain has built other systems within it that have evolved along with the evolution of humanity as a whole. So our limbic system built our emotional engagement with life, and then of course the cerebral cortex came along, which really helped us actually assess whether this feeling of security or lack of security or threat is actually real. And so that part of our brain really helps us determine whether or not we are in fact being threatened. The problem with fear is that it hijacks that portion of our brain, the cerebral cortex. It hijacks that portion of our brain, and it drops us right back into survival mode. Something is threatening us. And if you're like me, 80% of the things that cause me to go into fight or flight mode actually are not a threat to my survival. Are they? We're not really going to die of embarrassment. We won't die of public speaking. We won't die of having to apologize to someone we love for behaving poorly. We won't die from not being able to buy a Starbucks every day. Because our finances aren't what we want them to be, right? Do you see? So our fight-flight system gets activated by anything that our brain decides is a threat, whether it's actually a threat to our survival or not. And fundamentally, that survival mechanism has expanded to not only a threat to our physical survival, but a threat to our egoic survival. Because we aren't actually physically threatened most of the time. Yes, 10, 20% of the threats we perceive are in fact real. And when somebody's chasing you, you should run, right? They are real threats, and there are very real threats out there, no question about it. But a good 80% or some significant amount of the things that we go into this threat mode actually are not things we are going to die from, but our ego thinks that it will. And it puts us into this mode. Fear comes fundamentally from that, and it operates in what is called the amygdala hijack. The amygdala hijack is what happens when a non-physical, like not real threat is interpreted as if we were being chased by a lion or a bear. So we're going to begin with this movie. I'm hoping it will start. Is it not an automatic start? Thank you, Alex. I thought it would automatically start. I'm hijacking Alex. Thank you.
We know you're really busy, so we're keeping it quick. It's the manager minute or two.
We've all had conversations where we've left feeling like they just missed the mark. Why does this happen? Well, part of the reason has to do with our brain, specifically the amygdala. What's the amygdala, you ask? It's only Sarah's favorite part of the brain. The amygdala is the part of the brain that is constantly scanning your environment for threats so that it can move you into action so it can protect you. Those threats might be physical, mental, emotional, or even to our ego. One of the ways I like to think about the amygdala is to imagine it's this shaky little neurotic chihuahua. It's shaking and it's nervous and it's ready to bark at anything that it perceives as a threat. Some of us have more neurotic chihuahuas than others. So what does any of this have to do with conversations? When our amygdala is triggered, it hijacks our brain. It pumps our body and our brain full of these chemicals and hormones that shut down parts of our brain. So we lose access to things like logic and reasoning, problem solving, listening, and empathy. All things pretty important to building trust. So when my amygdala is triggered or when your amygdala is triggered, there's no way we can connect and build trust in the same way as when we're calm. So what do you do if you notice the amygdala has been hijacked in you or the other person? That is a really good time to step away, take a breath, and regroup when both parties have had a chance to breathe. Here's your challenge. I want you to do an amygdala audit. Think about a time when you had a stress response and think about what did it feel like when you were going through that. Because the more aware you are about your response, the more likely you can catch it when it's happening in the moment. Or you're more likely to notice it in someone else. And remember, play fully brave. Did you find this helpful? Like, subscribe, and share with others. And if you're looking for more leadership tips, sign up for updates at sarahnoelwilson.com and follow me on social media. Thanks for watching. Now get back to work.
All right, so she does a fabulous job of explaining the amygdala hijack, and I love that image of the chihuahua, right? Because threat we get nervous and anxious and are afraid, and of course that fear shows up in fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the things that we generally tend to do when we become afraid. And when we do that, all of our ability to actually use the disciplined consciousness that we've been developing in meditation and in our spiritual practice, it's challenging for it to be available to us. I want to read to you a moment from what Jerry Jampolsky says about this, about fear. Fear can be known as the most virulent and damaging virus known to humankind. The fear that is the nucleus of our ego gives us an insatiable desire and hunger to consume more, and an unending consumption of more. Our ego's cardinal rule is that nothing is ever enough. Seek, but never find what you are looking for. Build your life with the fear of scarcity every step of the way. So what generally happens when we follow the belief in the world's fear-based laws, our egos motivate us to believe that we will feel more peaceful and happy if we find someone to blame, and to direct our anger at that person. And when our justified anger does not seem to be enough, we add on to the list our anger at the world, at God, and finally ourselves. When we get caught in the ego's thought system, our beliefs are created from the fear that the past is going to predict the future, and that the future is going to be just like the past, right? Fundamentally, fear is the belief that the past is going to recreate itself. We had a horrible relationship. We had some trauma in our childhood. We had a business that failed. We tried something and it didn't work out, whatever all of those things are. And we edge up to it, and our little chihuahua starts to go crazy, right? And starts to get anxious and and then either barks or runs away and doesn't actually know how to engage. And so we think of the opposite of love as being hate, right? The absence of love is our inability, basically, to love another. And yet, Gerald Jampolsky really talks about, no, actually, the opposite of love is fear. Therefore, to get out of fear, we actually have to move to love. He says this: fear distorts our perception and confuses us as to what is going on. Love is the total absence of fear. Love asks no questions. Its natural state is one of extension and expansion, not comparison or measurement. Love, then, is really everything that is of value, and fear can offer us nothing, because it is nothing. So the antidote to fear is love. Now, I don't mean romantic love. I don't even necessarily mean love, maybe in any way that we're used to thinking about love. We believe that if someone loves us, we won't be afraid, right? Because there's going to always be someone there to take care of us. And we believe that if we love someone, that means we won't ever have to feel lonely, alone, or scared. And so we create relationships, we call it love, when actually what we're trying to do is moderate our fear. What we're really looking for is an entirely different understanding of love. Ernest Holmes says this: there is no fear in love, and there is no liberation from fear without love. Fear is based on the supposition that we are unprotected, rejected, friendless. If the fearful mind would entertain love and the harmony and peace that go with it, it must turn from everything that denies this love, and trusting in divine guidance, open its being to the influx of love. Not just love of God, but love of everything, for love is all-inclusive. So the love that frees us from fear is recognizing and realizing that we live in a universe of love. That there is a love so profound, so big, so large, that it is forever giving itself to us, lifting us and sustaining us. To you.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough.
Well, now you know it's been playing on my song list for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And you see, we stand up here every Sunday and in every class, and we tell you who you are. And I tell myself who I am, not because our egos need to be lifted up, not because we need to be more humanly perfect, but because this is the truth. And when that little chihuahua is going insane, there is a love so great and so big and so powerful that we can lean into in that moment. That is the very truth of our being. And over and over and over again, we go to that so that we don't have to live out of fear. Do you see, there is this power and presence in the universe that is has not only become you, but is everything about you, that is lifting you and surrounding you and sustaining you all the time. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be centered. You don't have to do any of those things. That love is present. And when we feel weak or afraid or uncertain, this is the antidote. This deep and profound love, which is the ultimate truth of reality. And it's not only the ultimate truth of reality, it is the ultimate truth of the reality of who we are. And that love is forever pouring itself into, through, and as us. All the time. Unstoppably. There's nothing that we can do to shut that off, to get outside of it, to not have it available to us. There's nothing that we can do except forget. Forget that it's there. And think that our little chihuahua is running the show. Right? And that it knows what's going on. Because that love is so vast and so great that it doesn't need protection. Do you see? It doesn't need protection. Nothing can harm it. Emerson says, "The infinite lies stretched in smiling repose. It is only the finite that has wrought and suffered. It is only the human, egoic experience that we have of life that feels like we have to protect ourselves, keep ourselves safe and secure, make sure everything is in order." Do you see? But that love can't be damaged. Nothing within us that is the truth of our being can be weak or damaged or broken. That is the truth of who we are. And the universe is over and over and over and over again seeking to give you that message. That's what the universe is saying to you. And that is the love that moves us out of fear. It is the universal love that is the truth of life, of ultimate reality, and it is the truth of who we are despite what we think and feel. Now, in this wonderful book that we have, as we go through it, there'll be lots of keys that Jerry Jampolsky gives us about how to move from fear into love. Some of them have to do with how to move into love with other people. Some of them have to do with how to move into love with ourselves, or how to move into love with the things that we're doing. Move from love with the things that we're doing in life. Each and every key is to move us out of that place of fear, that place where we're constantly assessing threats and seeking security, into that just vast, unfettered place where we fling ourselves into the universe with absolute trust and faith. Right? And if you ever want to have a deep experience of what that looks like and feels like, go back to the 1980s and get a copy of an ad of the Nestea Plunge. Do you remember that? The Nestea Plunge. Some of you are too young to remember that, I'm sorry. And so you might have, I don't know, I'm assuming you can go out onto Google or YouTube and you can see that ad, right? And you just fling yourself into that love because it will catch you. But it will only catch you if you fling yourself into it. It cannot come and get you. Right? And so we have to deliberately decide that we're going to stand in love as opposed to in fear. He talks about in our relationships, that deliberate move is a place of forgiveness because we've never been damaged, because we can't really, honest to God, be hurt, not at that deep level of our soul, of the truth of who we are. We cannot be hurt because we are the infinite made manifest as love itself. And so when we touch that place, forgiveness is a non-issue because we no longer believe that the past will predict the future. And we're not afraid of the future because we have released the past. Do you see? Because we're not living inside of that distorted reality. We're going to talk about forgiveness later this month. The other thing he talks about early in the book is he talks about words to eliminate, words that come from fear. So here we go. This is the key I want you to really take home with you today. Words to eliminate. Commonly used in messages we give to ourselves and others. The use of these words continues to keep the guilty past and fearful future active in our minds. As a result, our feelings of conflict can only be reinforced. The more we recognize that using these words interfere with our inner peace, the easier it will be to practice eliminating them from our thoughts and experience. So you may find it helpful to carry an imaginary disposal bag in your mind. And every time you use one of these words, visualize yourself putting the word into the disposal bag and burying it. It is important always to be gentle with yourself. If you find yourself continuing to use any of the words that follow, merely regard it as a mistake to be corrected and choose not to feel guilty about making the mistake. Okay, are you ready? Here you go. The words to avoid using from here on out to move from fear to love. Impossible. Can't. Try. Limitation. If only. But. However. Difficult. Ought to. Should. Those are the words to eliminate. Each one of those words are a distortion of the reality. They all come from a belief that the past predicts the future and that the future is somehow limited by that past and that we have to secure ourselves and manage that threat. When we stand in love, those words are no longer necessary. And this love takes enormous bravery. To love ourselves and then to love someone else is to claim who we are and be vulnerable enough to show it. In both cases, it may be scary, but it is oh so worth it. And the next thing you know, we're flying through our lives on the wings of love.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. to trust my instincts, close my eyes and leap. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down. I'm through accepting limits, 'cause someone says they're so. Some things I cannot change, but till I try, I'll never know. Too long I've been afraid of losing love, I guess I've lost. Well, if that's love, it comes at much too high a cost. I'd sooner die defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity. They'll never pull me down. Unlimited. My future is unlimited. And I've just had a vision like a prophecy. I know it sounds truly crazy, and true, the vision's hazy, but I know someday I'll be up in the sky, defying gravity, flying so high, I'm defying gravity. They'll never pull me down. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. As someone told me lately, everyone deserves the chance to fly. And if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free. To those who'd ground me, take a message back from me. Tell them how I am defying gravity, flying so high, I'm defying gravity. Soon I'll match them in renown. And nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me down.
Thank you, Lainey Bernstein and Brad. Thank you so much. Do you see that when we move from fear to love, we defy gravity? We defy the human constructs that hold us back from the truth of who we are and from the love that is the truth of the universe. I invite you to go within with me. So as you go within with me now, just, oh man, we move into that place where we truly recognize and realize that there is a power and a presence. Our practitioners come forward here to pray with us, to hold consciousness as we move into that knowing. There is a love in the universe so profound. It is for us. It is with us. It is life itself moving through us. And so as we move into this stillness, let us peek through the doors of our fear. Open the windows to the light. Let us entertain the possibility that we too can fly. And the wings of love defy our past in a way that is so free that we are blessed, lifted, nourished, and encouraged. And that as we do this for ourselves, we give that same love to others, seeing their truth, their light. So I affirm and declare this morning for each and every one of us that that love is bigger and stronger and deeper and wider and more powerful than any little yapping chihuahua that we have in the background. And that it actually soothes that little chihuahua into a playmate of joy. This is the truth I know for each one of us here, for each person on the planet, for all beings everywhere. Truly, may we move today from fear to love. And so it is.